Arc 6, The Music King. Chapter 1. Jingxie helped the young emperor until he was 18 years old. Then he resigned from his position and traveled around the world with his lover. The two of them were in very good health and lived to their 90s before they fell asleep in death one after another. When Zhou Yinsheng opened his eyes, he was floating in the Xinghai space. The huge energy whirlpool split into two halves as usual, one rushing towards his sea of consciousness, the other half disappearing without a trace. Zhou Yinsheng didn't bother to probe after it. He absorbed and digested a bit, then hurriedly jumped into the next world. He was lying on a soft bed, feeling sore from head to toe. The room was dark. Only the flashing neon lights outside brought weak beams of light through the window, casting a blotchy pattern on the white walls. He groped around the bedside table and finally found the lamp. He turned it on. The sunburst of light stung his eyes, giving him a headache. He reflexively covered his eyes, discovering that his body's eyes were already swollen. The swelling was painful and uncomfortable. Furthermore, there was a heavy sorrow and hatred clogging his chest, which also affected Zhou Yinsheng's mood. The AI on his wrist timely sent over the body's and the world's data. Zhou Yinsheng quickly read through the information before he couldn't help but let out a harsh curse. No wonder his eyes were swollen like this. He was originally crying. This was the story of a female protagonist who broke into the entertainment industry and eventually became the music diva. The original owner wasn't a vicious villain that bullied the heroine, nor was he a cannon fodder KO'd by the heroine, nor the heroine's story. In the heroine's story, he was just a passerby, a stepping stone, silently bearing the tragic fate imposed upon him. The original's name was Oji Nan. When anyone mentioned him, they also had to mention his father, Oji Bai. Oji Bai was the sea country's music godfather. He composed hundreds of classic songs in his lifetime and helped make 4 generations of music gods famous. He had unimaginable influence in sea country's music industry. Oji Nan followed in his footsteps. He was very interested in music from an early age. When he turned 18, he joined the entertainment industry. He has released 3 albums so far, and the sales were pretty good, so he was considered a breakout star. Ojibai's character was very strict. He'd carried great expectations for his son, so he would rebuke him and severely reprimand him if he was slightly dissatisfied. Over time, Oji Nan became very introverted and easily shy and anxious. With that kind of personality, it's reasonable to say that it would be difficult for him to make a name for himself in the entertainment world. But he didn't just have an influential father, he also had an influential brother. His brother, Lin Shiqing, was Oji Bai's disciple. He was both handsome and astonishingly talented. After signing a contract with Times Record under a recommendation from Oji Bai, he rose to stardom and eventually won the title of the 4th generation music god. With his strong support, it was impossible for Oji Nan to not become famous. Now, Oji Nan had already released 3 best-selling albums and was planning to hold his first concert. But during the concert preparation period, Oji Bai was diagnosed with late-stage lung cancer. Oji Nan accompanied him by his hospital bedside daily and had no choice to postpone his concert. However, no matter how hard the doctors worked, they all failed to extend Ojibai's life. One early morning in April, he only had enough time to touch his son's sleeping face before passing away. Ozinan's specialty was musical instruments. He could skillfully play 18 instruments, but he was so suppressed by his father that his arrangements were always mediocre. Ojibai did not think much of his songs that he composed, criticizing that they weren't polished in skill, but spiritually lacking. Ozinan was thoroughly unconvinced, so he always wanted to make some achievements to win his father's admiration. He wrote a lot of songs after his but his debut, but his producers always shook their heads and silently sighed. For a time he felt dispirited, even desperate. He thought he could never suppress his father's achievements. But after his father passed away, the shackles imprisoning his mind seemed to have been broken, causing him to explode with unprecedented enthusiasm and inspiration for music composition. After spending a whole night working on it, he wrote a song in memory of his father. It was called Because of You. All the words he had wanted to say to his father, but couldn't muster up the courage to, he wrote them into the song, incorporating all his love into every note. With only a simple piano accompaniment, this song had the power to move people's hearts. Ozinan sang it over and over. Then, sporting dark baggy eyes, he brought it to Lin Xijing so he could help him revise it. But here's where things started going wrong. When Ozinan made his debut, because he was trying to prove himself, he wrote a lot of songs for his albums, but the producers always rejected them. Ling Qiqing felt sorry for him, so he took his scores and modified them, instantly turning the ordinary songs into touching tunes. Ojinan's signature was placed on all of them, marketing and selling him as a gifted musician. So it could be said that Ozinan's previous fame was empty. He truly found the path he should walk after his father's death. He had many ideas he urgently wanted to realize, and he wanted his father in heaven to be proud of him. This fervent yearning gave, because of you, incredible power. Lin Xiqing was keenly aware of this power and planned to immediately let his younger brother release an EP. Unexpectedly, the heroine Ge Mengshu suddenly visited his studio and saw the score. As the heroine, Ge Mengshu's intuition was naturally outstanding. She was immediately entranced by the song and repeatedly questioned if it was her senior's new work. Lin Qiqing was obsessively in love with Ge Mengshu. He always tried to show off his best side in front of her, so he unintentionally nodded his head. Because this song had a lot of high notes, it was more suitable for a female singer. Ge Mengshu knew that Lin Qiqing had feelings for her, so she blushingly asked him if the song could be included in her new album. Lin Qiqing was in too deep. He had no choice but to agree. But after returning home, the more he thought about it, the more uneasy he became. So he burned all the manuscripts stored at Ozinan's house to eliminate any future troubles. Ozinan was excitedly waiting for the company to launch his concert and EP. How could he have anticipated seeing Because of You on TV, sung by Ge Mengshu and adapted by Lin Qiqing? He couldn't believe his eyes for a long time. Ge Mengshu's fame shot up because of this song, becoming the top female star of Time's record. Ojinan approached Lin Qiqing to question him, but was sent away by Lin Qiqing's manager, who turned around and preemptively accused him of plagiarism, bringing out a lot of evidence. Lin Qiqing had helped produce and arrange every one of Ojinan's albums, but only Ojinan's name was on it. This alone was a scandal that couldn't be revealed to the public. Since he was well prepared, Lin Chiqing brought out a number of manuscripts with additions and alterations, sorted in chronological order, so people could see how he wrote because of Yule. And Ojinan couldn't bring out any evidence to prove otherwise. While he felt as if he'd fallen into an ice hole, someone exposed online that not only was Ojinan faking being talented, he also lip syncs. His so-called heavenly voice was all the work of a stand-in singer. None was his credit. This wasn't a groundless accusation. During Ozinan's early debut, because he was very shy, he was terrified of singing live. The first time he held a fan meet and greet, his throat unexpectedly locked up because of his nervousness. He couldn't even speak. The company had to quickly find a substitute that was good at imitating to dub him in the background. Because of this, Ojibai had ruthlessly slapped his son, saying that he should get out of the music industry if he couldn't even sing live, and to not bring him any more shame. Lin Qiqing had quickly come forward to resolve the dispute. He ensured that he would take care of the substitute and never let anyone know about what happened. He also promised to strictly train his younger brother so he could overcome his shyness. Ojibai acquiesced thanks to this. The matter was already 2 years old, but it unexpectedly turned up again. Moreover, a video surfaced of the substitute singing behind stage and Ojinan lip-syncing on stage, causing the netizens to be outraged. Ojinan is dead meat. Eat shit, Ojinan. Ojinan is a plagiarist. And one after another, the shots for Ojinan to get out of the music industry resounded. While everyone was verbally attacking Ojinan, Lin Qiqing kept silent. He also didn't slow down the pace of gathering evidence to prepare for the court case. But then, Ye Mengshu also posted on her social media. She said that she believed in her senior's talent and character. Everyone should calm down and not discredit his father's name. Both were god and goddess level ranked in the music industry. After this post, all the hate and abuse hurled at Ojinan suddenly increased. The media also wrote an article claiming that Ojinan had ruined Ojibai's legendary reputation. He was not fit to be Ojibai's son. At this point, Ojinan already understood that Lin Qiqing, whom he once regarded as his elder brother, was determined to force him to a dead end. But this only made him feel angry, not heartbroken. What he couldn't stand the most were the people saying that he did not deserve to be Ojibai's son. If it was before, he might have doubted himself, but now that the shackles on his mind had lifted, he could unconditionally say with pride that he was his father's pride, that he was deserving of his father's expectations. But even if he had 1,000 words in his heart that he wanted to pour out or even shout, no one would believe a person without evidence. Lin Qing and Ye Mengshu just needed to say a word, and they could completely destroy his future and dreams. Currently, the court had already subpoenaed him. He had to attend the court hearing next month. Time Records had also one-sidedly announced the termination of his contract and issued a notice. Now, Ojinan had lost his parents and lost his reputation. He was at his most desperate and helpless moment. If Julian Sheng did not come, he would leave Sea Country in infamy after losing the court case and wander around aimlessly. After spending day after day in despair, he turned to drugs and finally died of overdose. When the news spread back into his home country, people would scold, "Those who don't repent deserve death," and that's that. He would always be a stain engraved on his father's tombstone. As for Lin Qiqing and Ye Mengshu, they took one step after another towards their glorious peak. How tragic! How could your life be so tragic? No wonder you were crying your eyes out. Zhen Cheng entered the bathroom and looked at the extremely pale but extremely beautiful face reflected in the mirror. He pointed his nose towards the mirror and slowly said, Right. Let me save you. What do you want? To be your father's pride? To show the world your talent? To compose music to your heart's content? No problem. I can fulfill all your desires. He muttered to himself as he adjusted Oji Nan's body data through the AI. He continued, I'll not only make up for your regrets, I'll also trample the high and mighty Lin Shiqing and Gaming Shu into the mud within a month. How about that? Isn't that satisfying? He curled up his red lips, reflected in the mirror, his sharp, knife-like gaze slowly softened and cleared up. Finally, his eyes curved slightly, revealing a copy of the original's shy smile. From today on, he would live well on behalf of Ozinan, and his life will be wonderful. Chapter 2. Ojinan's voice was very good, but it was not at the level of Huron Gimengshu's heavenly voice. But after Zhu Sheng's adjustment, his throat became a veritable golden throat. He could reach as low as G7, as high as C3. Even singing across 5 octaves was easy for him. Ojinan was 20 this year. His voice was already fully developed. It was a clear timbre mixed in with a trace of huskiness, singing love songs with a little vistitude, singing rock brimming with passion, singing jazz with simple eroticism. As long as he got an opportunity, he would become an overnight celebrity. What Zhu Sheng lacked right now was such an opportunity. Time Records was one of the top entertainment companies in Sea Country. They specialized in the music making and had 3 music kings and queen ranked persons under their umbrella. And Gaming Shu, by virtue of Because of You, was freshly promoted to the music queen throne, becoming the company's 4th cash cow. In order to protect Lin Qiqing and Gaming Shu, Time Records gave an ultimatum to Oji Nan, and because Oji Bai had a very strong character, he'd secretly offended quite a lot of people, so no one offered to help Oji Nan out of the desperate situation. What should I do? Zhu Sheng stroked his jaw, then decided to play a fierce game with Lin Qiqing. Lin Qiqing was just an overly compassionate male supporting role. He doesn't even end up with Gaming Shu. Instead, the young boss of Time's Record, Yun Shiyuan, benefited. For this type of woman, he destroyed his younger brother. I wonder if he had any regrets. The original Jinan didn't live long enough to see the ending. Now, Zhu Yunsheng must personally witness Lin Qiqing's regretful expression. Thinking of this, Zhu Yunsheng turned on his computer and checked the status of Ojinan's estate. Ojibai was a rich man, but he was also a philanthropist. He donated far more money to charity than his own income, so he had only left Ojinan 50 million in cash and a villa. The studio was left to Lin Qiqing, hoping that he could take good care of his son. If he was an ordinary person, 50 million could give him a comfortable life. But for the troubled Zhu Yunsheng, it was merely a drop in the bucket to fight against Time's Record and the music god Lin Qiqing. He must find himself a powerful enough partner. Who to choose? Clicking across the keyboard, he selected Huanya Entertainment News Group, which was also a giant in Sea Country's entertainment industry. This company only had one music god-level singer, but they had many movie kings and queens. Their main industry was film and television, and their capital was even more solid than Time's Records. Moreover, the boss behind it was Sun Qimyu, and just his name alone was worth more than Time's Records signboard. Sun Qimu was the founder of the Hongliang Fund. Through the Hongliang Fund, he'd once sniped air currency, triggered the Asia financial crisis. He also once distributed the West's stock and future market, wantonly plundering wealth from the Western nations. Saying he had riches equivalent to an entire nation was no exaggeration. Exaggeration? Hunya Entertainment News was simply the product of his boredom, yet in the country's entertainment industry it had an unshakable position. If Zhou Yunsheng wanted to get out of his predicament, he currently could only beg help from Hunya Entertainment News. So, how could he convince them? First, he needed to come up with evidence, and secondly, he needed to provide works. Evidence proving Ojinan's innocence had all been taken away and destroyed by Lin Xijing, and for a singer-songwriter, creating a sufficient number of high-quality songs in a month was as difficult as ascending the heaven. But Zhou Yunsheng wasn't an average person. If there was no evidence, he could forge it. If there were no songs, he could search 007's database and casually come up with thousands or even tens of thousands heirloom compositions. Don't even try to tell him that copying others' work is wrong, a shameless action. When you need to escape a trap, what is shame? Just gobble that up. Zhou Yunsheng's skin was already thicker than a titanium alloy steel plate. He immediately opened 007's song database, picking and choosing from it. The O family was a music family. The villa's basement was soundproof. It was stuffed with a variety of musical instruments and a small recording studio. In addition, Zhou Yunsheng had many advanced orchestration softwares. After modifying and filling things in by himself, he unexpectedly recorded 10 songs within 10 days and stored them on a disc. Rubbing his sore eyes, he drifted back to his bedroom like a ghost. He slept until noon the next day. He'd already hacked into Shun Qimu's itinerary and knew that the man would go to Hunya Entertainment News Group at 4 o'clock this afternoon for inspection. This was his best chance to discuss cooperation. The CD was done. What about the evidence? Zhou Yunsheng scratched his head. He realized that he was so busy recording the songs that he'd forgotten to forge evidence. He immediately probed his mental voice into 007's central administration system and sketched a music composition scene in his mind. The scene was processed into a video file by 007. Even the top hacker in the world wouldn't be able to tell it was a fake. After doing all this, he put on a white shirt and jeans, casually combed his hair back and drove out the underground parking lot, waiting until 3:59 p.m. With 1 minute to spare, a series of black cars slowly pulled into the lot. Sun Qimu was really like the rumors, disciplined, never wasting a second. Several bodyguards quickly crowded around. One pulled open the door, and the others placed their hands near their jacket pockets, looking alert. If there was the slightest sign of trouble, without a doubt, they would certainly pull out their guns and shoot any rashly appearing person into a sieve. Such spectacle was not excessive for Sun Qimu, who'd personally led many people and even several nations to bankruptcy. A lot of people loved him, but even more people hated him, numerous like the stars. The shadowed man slowly advanced. His calm footsteps reverberated in the narrow space, like a beating heart. He was very tall, at least 190 centimeters. His back was very straight, and his well-built physique was wrapped in a pure black custom-fitted suit. Every step revealed the outlines of his extreme explosive legs. Walking between the shining lights, his deep and handsome facial features were finally revealed. He had thick, black, sword-like eyebrows and a pair of long, narrow phoenix eyes underneath. A casual glance from him could freeze people in fear. There were rumors that Shun Qimu was an emotionless robot. If it looked like they weren't groundless. Shu Shang stared at the gradually approaching man, his heart tangled. How can I talk to him? Rushing out would be a surefire way to fill his own body with bullet holes. This price was too high to pay. He let out a breath, then slowly, carefully opened his car window. He slowly got out of his car and slowly raised his hands, facing Sun Shi Mu with an I surrender gesture. Chief Sun, I'm Ojinan. I wanted to talk to you. His clear voice was like gurgling spring passing through a forest, but also like raindrops falling from slightly trembling lotus leaves, breathing a touch of coolness into the hot summer day. Shun Ximu didn't stop walking, but he turned his head to look over. The bodyguard saw that the other man looked unarmed and unimposing, and was also raising his hands to show his harmlessness. So they put down the hands that were already reaching for their gun handles. Zhou Sheng quickly seized the opportunity to say, Chief Sun, I'm the real composer of Because of You. Lin Yiqing is the one who plagiarized. I have evidence to prove it. As long as you help me out this once, I'm willing to work for you for 3 years free of charge. Xun Qimu didn't trouble himself with entertainment gossip, so he didn't know what he was talking about. He turned his head away and continued moving forward, apparently uninterested in helping. Zhu Yunsheng got anxious. He ran to his side, staring over pitifully, with tear-filled peach blossom eyes, sobbing out, Chief Sun, I'm at my wit's end. Hunya Entertainment News is my only way out. I really am very valuable. Please believe me. Within 3 years, I swear to help you earn 300 million. 300 million sounded like a lot, but for Sun Qimu it really was nothing. But he still stopped his pace and looked straight at the young man. Zhou Yunsheng immediately blinked, squeezing out a few more crystal-like tears. Ozinan's looks were very outstanding, not sun-bright and dazzling like Zhu Xiyu, but clear and gentle like moonlight. His skin was very white, almost morbidly so, and his lips were closed to flesh pink, making him look extremely frail, unable to survive one fall. But his eyes were dark and clear. When they were filled with glistening tears, they would simply break hearts. This melancholy, fragile, confused, and helpless appearance was naturally attractive and lethal. In Zhou Yunsheng's hands, who could work the original strengths to their limits, it was a powerful tool to win sympathy. Sun Mu was subdued by his glistening tears and hopeful, longing expression. For the first time ever, he wasted some time. Follow me up to talk. He dropped this sentence and continued forward. Zhou Yunsheng was overjoyed. While wiping away his tears, he stumbled along. When entering the elevator, due to the many people crowded together, he seemed to be a little shy or afraid of strangers. The courage to risk everything had long disappeared, and he huddled close to the wall, head hanging low. Only his cute hair whirl was visible. The elevator stopped at the top floor. Waiting at the door was an assistant who had long ago prepared data and Ojinan handing it over. Sun Ximu took the file and gave it a quick look. When he noticed a young man helplessly standing in place, he said in a deep voice, Sit down. Zhu Yunsheng sat down, but because of his tension, his pale cheeks were flushed, and his hands continuously tugged at the hem of his clothes, like a child who was confronting the head of discipline. Sun Ximu quickly glanced at him, then tossed a pair of double-edged cigar cutters and a cigar on the table, asking, Can you help me cut it? Zhu Yunsheng's eyes widened slightly. Then he looked over probingly. This person couldn't be his lover, who doesn't even have a fixed name, right? Just by looking at the height, looks, and hobbies, the possibility was already 70–80%. Heart speeding up a bit, he picked up the cigar and cigar cutter, nodding, "I can. This pyramid-shaped cigar only needs to be cut 0.25 inches from the cap. The cut must be very swift, preferably with one nimble cut, not multiple cuts. Otherwise the cigar wrapper will get damaged and the tobacco inside will fall out. After you cut, you must use your fingers to brush off any loose tobacco fragments, and it's best to suck on it a bit to see if the path is smooth." Zheng used to hate the smell of smoke, but now he was used to it. He talked as he moved, but because he was too focused, he actually brought the unlit cigar to his mouth and sucked to see if the duct was unobstructed. Sun Simu's eyes darkened, staring at his thin, flesh-pink lips. Zhu Sheng also stared blankly, inwardly cursing his own misbehaving hands. Chapter 3. The two stared at each other in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Zhu Sheng put down the cigar and stammered, "Sorry, I ruined your expensive cigar. I'll buy you another box." The young man's pale cheeks were now flushed, his eyes slightly teary. He looked extremely embarrassed, but also very cute. Sun Shimu's eyes flashed slightly. He waved. "It's fine." In the end, he casually moved the cigar to the ashtray. "You said you have evidence. Can you show me?" "Yes." Jin Sheng quickly handed him a USB drive. Sun Shimu took it and pushed it into the port, then played the video. At the end of the video, the young man was lying on the bed, choking back uncontrollable sobs. The tremendous grief over the loss of a loved one was heartbreaking. Zhu Sheng's eyes reddened. He bowed his head and wiped at his tears. Sun Qimu was expressionless from beginning to end, but when he opened his mouth to talk again, his tone was noticeably softer. "How do you want me to help you?" "I want to hold a concert. Free tickets. I'll invest 50 million. I want Huanya Entertainment News to be responsible for the publicity, venue, security, and other matters. At the concert, I'll release this video to clear my father's name." Sun Shimu waved and said in a deep voice, "I'm sorry for cutting you off, but how do you intend to clear yours and Oji Bai's name? Just this video isn't enough. Don't tell me you plan to sing those songs that have your name on them, but were written by Lin Xijing? I don't think the audience will buy it." Shu Yuncheng froze. Then he took out the disc in his bag and handed it over. "I want to sing my own songs. New songs. No one heard them yet. Chief Son, I can hold up this concert. Please believe me. Although it's very hasty to set this up in just 1 month, but with Hunya Entertainment News Group's strength, it's not impossible. Please listen to the songs. Afterwards, decide whether to help me." The young man expression was very sincere, with a lot of uncertainty and helplessness hidden in his tear-stained eyes. Sun Ximu considered for a moment, then he finally pushed the disc into the computer. While he earnestly listened to the songs, Zhou Yunsheng stared thoughtfully at the cigar on the tabletop. Whether it was appearance, height, temperament, or hobbies, Sun Shimu was very similar to his lover, but whether or not they were the same person, he could only be certain after intimate contact. Thinking of this, Zhu Yunsheng frowned in annoyance. He couldn't just throw himself at someone and forcefully kiss them after one similarity, could he? Wouldn't that make him a kissing maniac? That sounds so obscene. If his hunch was right, then naturally everything would work out, but if not, his cooperation would crumble. Plus, It's rumored that Sun Shimu was a neat freak. He hated it when strangers approached him. Zhu Sheng was so torn that he kept caressing his lips, kneading his lips from flesh pink to dark red. They looked very tempting. Sun Shimu was seemingly listening to the songs, but in reality he was secretly observing the other man. Seeing his actions, his eyes flashed slightly, and his heart trembled slightly. He felt faintly thirsty. After listening to the songs, he suppressed the commotion in his heart and stretched out his hand. Come back tomorrow morning. I'll introduce you to the staff who will be in charge of the concert. Let's have a pleasant cooperation. Zhu Sheng was overjoyed. He quickly shook his hand and repeatedly expressed his gratitude. Then he hurriedly got up and left. After he left, San Chi-mu leaned back in his leather chair for a moment. Then he picked up the cigar from the ashtray, lit it, and sucked. For some reason, the cigar was mellower and stronger than any cigar he'd ever smoked. Intoxicating. The next day, Zhou Sheng arrived at Huanya Entertainment News early in the morning. The person in charge of Hunya had been instructed by the boss to introduce him to Sea Country's top music producer, Chin Taihe. Chin Taihe had seen the video and heard the 10 new songs, so his attitude towards Zhou Sheng was quite mild. Since Chief Sun is planning to cooperate with you, our company couldn't refuse. The song Because of You was indeed stolen from you by Lin Xiqing, but as far as I know, all the songs in your previous albums were written by him. Is this right? Qin Taihe unceremoniously questioned. That's right, but that doesn't mean I'm not talented. I just hadn't found my own way. Zhu Sheng blushed and replied, Well, now know whether or not you have talent after the test. We'll know whether or not you'll have talent after the test. If we help you and you get involved in another plagiarism incident, our Hunya Entertainment News reputation will be greatly affected. We have to be careful. Chin Taihe pointed at the piano in the practice room and said, Please adapt Mozart's Symphony No. 40 for the pop charts. Remember, you have to impress me and all those present in the room. Making them an impromptu song was very difficult, but it was even more difficult to rearrange classic music. A slight mishandling would lose the original's essence, becoming lower work of art. Ryu Sheng looked up. The boss of Hunya Entertainment News, the concert director, a well-known composer, choreographer, and several high-level agents were in the practice room. They all had very high status in the industry and were naturally hard to please. It was almost an impossible task to impress all. But Zhu Sheng wasn't an ordinary person. He'd lived through numerous reincarnations and encountered countless dangerous situations. This trial was not even worth mentioning to him. Plus, he'd inherited all of Oji Nan's passion and inspiration for music. He walked to the piano, lifted the lift, and tapped out a few notes. Chin Taihe and the boss exchanged a look, calmly waiting. The youth didn't sit down to play, but idly stood. He poked the keys sporadically, the scattered musical notes inciting laughter. But after poking around, his hand's speed gradually increased, and the scattered syllables converged into a jumping stream floating in the air. A serious symphony was converted into a lively jazz piece by him. The piano keys rose and fell, and his shy expression gradually became enthusiastic and unrestrained. His waist and hips also swayed with the rhythm. Steadily, the audience's expression became relaxed and cheerful. The international renowned choreographer Simon actually stood up and stepped and danced to the music, improvising a jazz dance. Julian Cheng was inspired by his dancing. His right and left hand suddenly played a few cross-handed melodies, stimulating the already very lively notes to become more and more enthusiastic. Chin Taihe's crossed arms had unconsciously relaxed, and he snapped his fingers while twisting his hips. He had undoubtedly been moved. Even the always prim and proper Honyan Entertainment News CEO couldn't help but move to the beat. His head bobbed little by little. Standing in the doorway, Sun Chimu quietly observed everything in front of him, his face expressionless, but his gaze very focused. The young man had his back to him, his hands flowing out a tune, his buttocks swinging. His warm and lively appearance was refreshing. San Shimu's lips almost had a visible tilt. He was about to walk in when he was accidentally bumped into. Sorry, boss, I didn't mean to. I just lost control for a moment. The straight-suited assistant quickly apologized, embarrassed, while still involuntarily following the beat with his hips. It made a funny picture. San Shimu meaningfully glanced at him, then walked in with big strides. Seeing the visitor, the cheerful music abruptly ended, and the previously brilliant smiling young man was now twisting his hands warily, calling out, "Chief Sun." Chin Tai He and the rest of the audience also stopped dancing. Their expression showed regret for the disturbance. "How was it?" the man inquired in a deep voice. "Excellent. Completely beyond my expectations. Just one thing I'm worried about. The concert is 2 hours long. I'm afraid 10 songs is not enough. I wonder if Mr. O has any more works. If so, please give them to me as soon as possible. We must perfect the repertoire within a month. There are also many such issues like band coordination, dancer coordination, stage movements, etc. We'll be very busy. It's best for Mr. O to quickly strengthen his body. I'm afraid he won't have enough stamina." Chin Tai-he looked doubtfully at Ojinan's small body. Zhou Sheng nodded again and again, but he wasn't worried. The original's body was indeed very weak, but after his adjustment, not to mention one concert, he could hold 10 of them consecutively with no rest without no problem. Seeing this, San Chimu made a decision. "If there's no problem, please sign the contract, Mr. O. All the concert staff will also have to sign a confidentiality contract." The assistant immediately took out a thick stack of contracts from the briefcase and had everyone sign. 3 days later, Ojinan finally logged onto his long-dead blog account and announced that he would hold a large 50,000 capacity concert in Star Pavilion, where he would also provide evidence of his innocence. And as expected, the netizens completely didn't believe it, and a group of people poured into the blog to hurl abuse, calling him shameless and a bullshitter. As everyone knew, Star Pavilion was the country's most well-equipped facility. Only the top singers were capable of boarding its stage. Ojinan was a no talent fake, a true villain. What qualifications did he have? What ability did he have? Even so, there were still a lot of people saying they would definitely be there, but not to show support, but to protest, curse, and throw rotten eggs, vowing to permanently drive Ojinan out of the entertainment industry. The people with the same malicious intent was not few. Lin Xiqing and Gimung Shu's fans said that if the concert was real, they would definitely rush to the scene and personally take revenge for their idols. The atmosphere gradually reached the climax. Ojinan's block almost crashed from the huge influx of visitors. At this time, Huanya Entertainment News released some news on their official website. They would be the exclusive sponsor of Uzinan's concert. The internet users were in an uproar. They excitedly rushed to the official website to grab tickets. In less than an hour, the 50,000 free tickets were all snatched up. What amazing malice. Because of this, Sun Shimu spent a lot of money to hire the world's top security firm to be responsible for on-site security. He also applied for the deployment of hundreds of police officers who were ready to arrest anyone who got to extremists. In every corner of the facility, a hidden camera was installed to ensure that all activities were monitored. Finally, the stage was adjusted from the original 4 meters to 8 meters, far, far away from the audience, to ensure that no one could hurt Ojinan. While the waves of hostility grew higher, every day Zhou Yunsheng was completely unmoved, throwing himself into the intense rehearsals. Chapter 4. The original agreed upon $50 million investment was increased by $80 million in the end. Plus, with sound, lighting, choreography, security, and other expenses, the final cost was projected to extend $150 million. But Hunya Entertainment News senior management didn't raise the slightest opposition to this. Firstly, Ojinan had true talent, enough to shut anyone up, and secondly, no one dared to defy Sun Chimu's dignity. Visiting Hunya Entertainment News every day after work had already become Sun Chimu's unfailing habit. Although the drive was more than an hour, he didn't find it troublesome. At this moment, he was standing outside the recording studio, gazing across the window at the young man who forgot everything once he was engrossed in music. His expression unprecedentedly focused and gentle. The last recital was perfect. Chin Taihe was the first to stand up and applaud, followed by the guitarist, bassist, drummer, audio engineer. Their initial hostility had eventually transformed into admiration. They had been completely conquered by the young man's voice and talent. "You did so well!" Chin Taihe hugged the youth after he walked out of the studio tightly, sincerely exclaiming, "Compared to your version, Gemeng Shu's Because of You is a piece of crap." The young man smiled shyly. His peach blossom eyes were filled with finely crushed and bright starlight. Sun Shimu's lips tilted. He strode up to the two and handed Zhou Yunsheng a cup of warm milk. He slowly opened. "The concert is in 3 days. This is enough rehearsing. Take a rest." Zhou Yunsheng drank the cup of milk and obediently nodded. Sun Chimu's stern expression softened slightly. He continued, "There's a banquet tonight. I'll take you along so you can relax and meet some people." "To help pave the way for my future?" Zheng quickly responded, a grateful expression, nodding to say his thanks. They changed their clothes and drove to a 5-star hotel. The banquet host personally welcomed them. Their speech was quite attentive. "Go get something to eat. No alcohol." Sun Chimu had his arms around the young man as he cautioned. The intimate gesture was eye-catching. Everyone knew that Sun Chimu was a cold man who had a serious case of misophobia. Forget about handshakes and hugs. He even hated it if anyone stood too close to him. It was unprecedented that he would hold someone so closely, his eyes concealing warmth and passion. Although they only knew each other for a short time, Sun Shimu seemed to instinctually know all of Zhou Yunsheng's hobbies and habits. He knew that he liked to drink milk and hated eating green peppers. He knew that he loved collecting high-tech electronics He even knew that he loved to drink wine, but lost his inhibition when he gets drunk. He knew too many things that he shouldn't know. This made Julian Shang inevitably suspect that he was his lover that had no name but would never disappear. So he never refuses Sun Shimu's intimacy. In fact, he accepted it like it was his right. What do you want to eat? I'll bring it for you. Julian Shang tucked the corner of the taller man's coat. I'll eat whatever you bring. Go ahead. Jin Taihe, you said you haven't eaten dinner yet. Sun Chimu was surrounded by several business partners and couldn't escape, so he had no choice but to let the younger man leave by himself. Julian Shang nodded and pushed through the crowd to the eating area. Then he started picking out his favorite foods. Zinan, you're here. A delicate and pretty-looking girl quickly approached and greeted him, her face full of pleasant surprise. The girl was named Guo Ai-Ni. She was a newcomer currently being promoted by Time's Record and was also once Ujinan's secret crush. Guo Ai-Ni knew that he'd loved her, but she pretended not to notice. Instead, she tried to use him to get in with Lin Qing. It seemed to be a coincidence that the two met here. Julian Cheng merely glanced at her, then continued filling his plate. Jinan, how do you know Chief's son? Are you guys close? The girl's eyes sparkled with greed. Julian Sheng ignored her, walking to a table to sit down and eat. The girl was persistent. She followed and gave him a flirtatious smile. Jinan, why are you ignoring me? Anyway, I heard you release evidence at the concert. Is that true? That song was really written by you? Julian Sheng ate a bit of matcha cake, then elegantly wiped his mouth with a napkin as he coldly opened. Guo Ai-Ni, don't bother probing odd information for Lin Qing. Go back and tell him. Ojinan will stomp you so deep into the mud you'll never be able to flip over in this lifetime. Intense hatred poured out from the young man's black eyes, scaring Guo Ai-Ni silly. When the young man wandered away, she quickly took out her phone and texted Ojinan's message to Lin Qing verbatim. Lin Qing had repeatedly asked Oshinan if he had copies of the manuscript, and Oshinan had certainly told him no. That was why he'd allowed his manager to take Ojinan to court. This junior had been well coddled by Oji Bai. He was pure to the point of being ignorant of the world. There's no way he could have lied to him. So Lin Qing scoffed at the threat and sighed at his manager. He thinks he can reverse the situation by climbing into Sun Chimu's bed. How naive. The manager sneered. Yes, he even has the guts to hold a concert. I'm also impressed. 50,000 people. They can throw him in one spit. While the two were scorning away, San Shimu ran into Yun Shi Yuan in Gimengshu at the banquet. Chief Son, are you on your way to eat? We're hungry too. Come, join us. Yun Jiwan smiled in a gentle, elegant manner. San Shimu didn't even give him a glance. He walked straight towards the youth who was having a drink at the bar. Chief Son, no one understands Ojinan's background better than I do. No matter why you intend to help him, I have to warn you that you may encounter the first investment fiasco of your career. This 50,000 people concert will become a grand farce. Instead of pointlessly throwing $80 million into the water, you should withdraw your hand early. Yun Shiwan sincerely cautioned. Ge Mengshu smiled gently and glanced at Oji Nan, her eyes full of ridicule and contempt. San Shimu finally stopped walking. He turned his head towards the two and slowly said, Others often say that I, San Shimu, am the god of investment. I don't hate this title. You'll know exactly how much Ojinan is worth in 3 days. Please look forward to it. The two were frozen by his strong self-confidence and cold gaze. It took them a long time to snap out of it. When they finally looked up again, the man was already by the youth's side. He had one hand wrapped around the youth's waist, and the other hand was reaching for his glass of wine. He took a sip from where he had been drinking, his lips seemingly unintentionally brushing the young man's black hair and jade-white ear, his expression gentle. The way he expressed his feelings with a characteristic restraint and frankness, it couldn't be ignored or resisted. Such a strong and cold man unexpectedly became so soft and biased when caught in the web of love. It surprised many of the guests. Giming Shu gave Oji Nan a meaningful glance, her smile becoming even more contemptuous. Please look forward to it? Okay then. She would wait to see the scene of Oji Nan weeping in anguish. God of investment, my ass. Zhou Yuncheng adjusted the body's data upwards again, so when the concert day arrived, the staff were all excited about his stamina. He was now backstage getting dressed. He wore tight leather pants that outlined his slender legs and firm butt. His neatly arranged six-pack and graceful V-line became the focus of the stylist's frequent drooling. San Shimu wrapped up a business negotiation as quickly as he could and rushed to the scene. Nervous, he expressionlessly draped his coat over the young man's shoulders. Not nervous, actually. Actually, I'm excited. Zhou Cheng looked up at him. His peach blossom eyes seemed very bright with anticipation, brighter than the stars in the sky. That's good. Go on. I'll watch you from here. San Shimu managed to suppress the urge to kiss the young man's eyes and pushed him towards the stage elevator. Zhou Cheng took off the coat and replaced it with a fitted black shirt, turning back to give him a bright smile. Outside the venue, a crowd was slowly pouring in, surrounded by heavily armed police and security. With signs on the walls that said, "Cameras are watching, please be civil, everyone." The anti-fans, who were full of malice thoughts, had no choice but to calm down. They could only use their words to attack. The staff who were distributing free glow sticks were being rejected. The audience expressed that their enthusiasm would never light up for Oji Nan. Take it anyway, even if you don't light it. It's also good for throwing at the stage, the staff joked. The crowds who were only allowed entry after they had been searched to make sure they brought in no harmful items, eyes immediately lit up. They rushed in to grab the light sticks. The scene was extraordinarily lively for a while. Half an hour later, the seated audience had no intention of quieting down to listen to music. They scolded, taunted, and screamed, using all means to ruin the concert. The stage lights hadn't been lit yet, seemingly intimidated by their maliciousness. Suddenly, a high-pitched sound resounded through the star pavilion, followed by a raging inferno, ignited by incessant drum beats and passionate electric guitar strumming, colliding, and intersecting. The stage instantly lit up, and Oji Nan's beautiful face appeared on the big screen. He sang with his eyes closed. This song had no lyrics, only a casual hymn. The very pleasant melody crashed into the audience's eardrums. Even if you were full of resistance and anger, you would not be able to resist its magic. The pitch grew higher and higher, causing the audience's mood to boil. They forgot to be noisy, just dumbfoundingly watching the young man's heavenly singing on the big screen. From C2 to C, and even C3, C4, C5, he closed his eyes and sang to the climax with a high and clear voice, and the background music music was changing from drums and electric guitar to more luxurious symphony. The tidal wave-like sound engulfed the audience like the sea under the moonlight, vast and boundless, and also like the twinkling starry heavens, limitless. Even if someone thought to cover their ears, they had no choice but to be compelled by the invasion, then be unable to resist indulging in the luxurious sound. After the song ended, the previous noisy star pavilion had quietened down until a needle drop could be heard. The young man on stage finally opened his eyes and looked towards the shadow audience. He said, gasping, Ojinan can't sing. That's just a rumor. No matter why you came to watch my concert, I want to thank you all. I will use my strength to lighten up the entire Star Pavilion. Then, not giving the anti-fans any time to react, he immediately snapped his fingers to signal the band to play the next song. He wanted to destroy all their nerves, tear out their eardrums, and make this concert become the most unforgettable memory. Chapter 5. This was an English song called Stronger. Starting off with an enthusiastic electric guitar solo, then drums, bass, and other musical instruments slowly came in, making the tempo faster and faster and more intense. Zhu Chang kept his eyes closed, moving as if dancing to the beat. When he opened his eyes, flames of anger ignited in his smoky and particularly deep eyes. His deliberately lowered voice, carrying a metallic texture, was full of disgust and contempt. Even the people who didn't understand English could feel his outburst of sharpness and ridicule. Their blood boiled, their whole body trembled. For those who could understand, they were stunned. You know the bed feels warmer, sleeping here alone. You know I dream in color and do the things I want. You think you get the best of me, think you had the last laugh, but you think that everything good is gone. Think you left me broken down. Think that I'd come running back. Baby, you don't know me, 'cause you're dead wrong. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Stand a little taller. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. What doesn't kill you makes a fighter. Footsteps even lighter. Doesn't mean I'm over, 'cause you're gone. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Doesn't mean I'm lonely when I'm alone. The handsome youth used his voice full of penetrative power and eyes bright like raging fire to tell the audience of stage that even without Lin Ching, he would become more powerful, stronger, until no one could beat him. This song was a declaration of war against Lin Ching, bluntly telling him, compared to me, you're nothing. Most of the audience members were Lin Ching's fans, but no one could say a word to defend their idol. They were music enthusiasts, so they could naturally hear that this song had what it took to be a global hit. With unparalleled earworm potential, and Oji Nan's captivating voice provided the best interpretation of the song. They wanted to block their ears, cover their eyes, wanted to resist the youth's omnipresent charm, but realized that they couldn't do anything except for staring at him with wide eyes. They could do nothing. The song was reaching the climax. The young man's metallic cold voice showed a hint of hoarseness and gasping, like a drop of water falling into hot oil, making the ball of flame that was already intense to the limit let out even more violet heat. The audience members closest to the stage were almost burned to ashes by the youth's charm. They were drenched in sweat, their hair sticking to their foreheads and cheeks, looking woefully awkward. Their faces showed clear resistance, but their eyes were flooded with waves of excitement. They wanted to follow the youth's moves, shout, scream, stronger and stronger, one more high spirit than the other, but they couldn't betray their real idol, so they remained themselves over and over again to endure. They reminded themselves over and over again to endure. Their souls were pierced by the youth's voice, battered, stabbed, ripped apart, eventually being crushed into fine powder. Some people endured with clenched teeth, some endured until tears, some endured until they were trembling, nearly fainting. One wanted to do something to calm themselves down, but accidentally clenched the lightstick in their hand. The previously dark audience platform emitted a weak light. Then it started spreading out, little by little, until they were all linked together. The young man's voice and stage presence were like the most potent drug, making them addicted, engrossed, then following him into the madness. When the song was over, he was sweating profusely and panting, but the audience was even worse off than him. Pairs of defiant and eager eyes staring at the focus of all the stage lights. The next song is called Rolling in the Deep, dedicated to you guys, he said without pause. What the fuck? What's to be done when just hearing the name makes your blood boil? When your butt can't help but wiggle? When your head can't help but bob? Everyone looked around, feeling embarrassed, but soon they couldn't make the effort to think about anything else. The young man's captivating voice dragged them into endless pain of love and hate. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, and it's bright, bringing me out the dark. Finally, I can see you crystal clear. Go ahead and sell me out, and I'll lay your ship bare. See how I'll leave with every piece of you. Don't underestimate the things that I will do. There's a fire starting in my heart, reaching a fever pitch, and it's bringing me out the dark. But I've heard one on you, and I'm gonna make your head burn. Think of me in the depths of your despair. This was a song of revenge. The young man casually sang while revealing a fierce and contemptuous smile, as if this was an announcement to the world. He will not easily let go of those who betrayed and sold him out. As the song says, he will let them burn, ruin them, and from the depths of despair they'll have no choice but to look up at his glory. In the face of such clear maliciousness, Lin Chiqing's fans were completely unable to feel outraged for their idol. They were already crazy, swaying to the rhythm of the music, screaming, shouting, unable to restrain their dizziness as their souls were invaded by the hate-filled song. After the song was over, everyone felt a burst of fatigue. They thought the young man would take a break to change clothes and rest, or sing a slow song to adjust the mood. But instead, they watched as he wiped the sweat off his forehead and panted, "Here's rock for you, please follow me and dance with abandon." What the fuck? How can a body that had exhausted instantly become excited, like being injected with chicken blood? Brother, there's smoke coming out of your head. Quickly, bring me a bottle of water. My throat is already scrapped raw. It'll be bad if I can't scream later. The staff over there, don't you have any more advanced cheer items than glow sticks? This one isn't bright anymore, and it looks very shabby. Don't you guys have any flexible light signs? No cardboard standees? No banners? Even without those, you should have longer light rods and star sticks, right? Are you or are you not Shinan-sama's staff? So unprofessional. The audience were drinking water, taking pictures, and when they saw staff passing by, they rushed to intercept them and ask them for more support items. The previously dark audience platform was now brightly lit. Zhou Cheng inserted the microphone on the stand and asked for an electric guitar. His fingers strummed out some random notes, and the noisy audience immediately quietened down until a needle drop could be heard. He seemed satisfied with the audience's reaction and smiled at the nearest camera. His beautiful face appeared on the big screen. That compelling smile was intoxicating. Before the audience could calm their frenzied heart, he put away his casual mood, and his fingers plucked on the strings at a speed indiscernible to the naked eye. One after another, notes collided in the air, exploding, converging, resulting in a hallucinogenic-like fantastic chemical reaction. Their cheeks burned, eyes blurred, and they involuntarily swayed to the rhythm. Star stick after star stick was raised and waved in unison. Flexible light sign after flexible light sign was lit up and rocked from side to side. The youth on the stage was blasting a high note, shouting himself hoarse. Behind him was a waterfall of fireworks. Opposite him was an undulating wave of lights. On stage and off stage was a dizzying sight. As he'd promised before, he could light up the whole stage, even the distant starry sky, by his own power. He was the most dazzling existence on earth. The audience had already forgotten their original intention. They were wholeheartedly crazy for him, completely immersed. His every song was so passionate, rhythmical, not providing a chance to breathe, carrying you up into the clouds, then ruthlessly dropping you into the abyss, leaving you repeatedly tormented between exhaustion and heartbreak, unable to escape, yet not wanting to escape. Time seemed to pass in the blink of an eye. The young man walked up the slowly emerging piano and panted out, "The last song, because of you. I hope everyone can listen quietly." How can it be the last song? Didn't the concert just start? The audience was shocked. They looked down at their watches and found that it was 11 o'clock. Someone howled, "No, don't stop. Keep singing. We support you." "Encore, keep singing." "Ojinan, you're the best. We support you." "Sing until morning. Sing until the end of time. We'll always listen to you." The shouts of support rose and fell, gradually converging into a thunderous applause. They had been completely conquered by the youth's talent. "Thank you, but unfortunately we have a contract with Star Pavilion. If we overstay our welcome, we'll face a huge fine." Yuncheng smiled slightly at the camera across from him and continued, "This song is the original because of you. Hush, please be quiet." He pressed his slender fingers against his pink lips. His handsome appearance was dazzling. A pink wave surged through the audience, but they eventually quieted down. This was the song that pushed Ojinan into hell and Ge Mengshu into heaven. Who was right and who was wrong? They all wanted to know. The piano tune slowly flowed out from his fingers like a stream. Ojinan's Hall of Fame level performance was amazing. His heavenly voice was mesmerizing, and the equally remarkable lyrics brought out an increasingly heavy and profound feeling. "I will not make the same mistakes that you did. I will not let myself, 'cause my heart has so much misery. I will not break the way you did. You fell so hard. I learned the hard way to never let it get that far. Because of you, I never stray too far from the sidewalk. Because of you, I learned to play on the safe side so I don't get hurt. Because of you, I find it hard to trust not only me, but everyone around me. Because of you, I'm afraid I lose my way. And it's not too long before you point it out. I can't cry, because I know that weakness in your eyes. I'm forced to fake a smile, a laugh, every day of my life. My heart can't possibly break when it wasn't even whole to start with, because of you. I never stray too far from the sidewalk. Because of you, I learned to play on the safe side so I don't get hurt. Because of you, I find it hard to trust not only me, but everyone around me. Because of you, I'm afraid. I watched you die. I heard you cry. Every night in your sleep. I was so young. You should have known better than to lean on me. You never thought of anyone else. You just saw your pain. And now I cry in the middle of the night at the same damn thing. Because of you, I never stray too far from the sidewalk. Because of you, I learned to play on the safe side so I don't get hurt. Because of you, I try my hardest just to forget everything. Because of you, I don't know how to let anyone else in. Because of you, I'm ashamed of my life because it's empty. Because of you, I'm afraid. Because of you, because of you. Chapter 6. This was a very heavy song, a belated talk. His father's love was like a mountain. It always made Ujinan feel oppressed and unable to move. He was afraid to see his father's disappointed expression, so he did everything he could to squeeze and force himself. But that only pushed him into a plight of timidity that he couldn't break out from. How could a person who could skillfully play 18 musical instruments have no musical talent? It wasn't until his father passed away that the haze that had blinded him finally lifted, stirring up infinite courage within him. He'd poured all his repressed love, unsaid emotions, and painful helplessness into the song. All the contradictions, struggles, longing, and reluctance were released by Zhou Yunsheng's singing. Unconsciously, many people had burst into tears, and Zhou Yunsheng, influenced by Ojinan's residual feelings, was also choking on his emotion and lost his voice, unable to continue. The piano music came to a grinding halt. Zhu Sheng covered his face to hide his distress. Suddenly, Ojibai's aged face appeared on a huge LED screen. He was holding a video camera, aiming the lens at himself. He weakly opened. My son said he'll sing a song he wrote especially for me. I'm looking forward to it. The camera pans and focuses on a handsome young man sitting in front of the piano. The furnishing indicated that they should be in the old family villa. The youth was very nervous. He closed his top two buttons of his shirt, coughed, then slowly said, "This song is called Because of You. Dad, I put a lot of the things I've always wanted to say in this song. You must listen carefully." Ojibai promised. Although he was no longer on the screen, his voice held through the light and satisfaction. In the audience, Lin Chiching's fans stared open-mouthed, their hearts bubbling forth with extreme embarrassment. Pictures of the evidence Lin Chiching submitted to the court were released on his blog. All the Because of You manuscripts were time-stamped, showing that he'd composed it after his mentor's death. But in the video, while Ojibai was still alive, Ojinan had already written the song, and he was also singing it in front of his face. In the end, who was the one who plagiarized? The answer was already self-evident. The manuscript submitted by Lin Chiching would become irrefutable proof of his own lies. The rhythm was the same, the singing was the same, and the way the singing stopped halfway was the same. Ojinan rested his forehead against the piano, big drops of tears falling onto the black and white piano keys. He obviously felt pain and despair over not being able to save his father. Ojibai lifted the quilt and staggered to his son's side. He crouched down and held his hand tightly, saying, "Zinan, this song is great. It's the best song I've ever heard in my life. There's something I always wanted to tell you." "What is that? What is it?" The young man turned to look at him. His eyes and nose were glowing red. He looked very fragile, but also very cute. Ojibai chuckled and inserted his fingers into his son's hair, slowly but firmly, saying slowly but firmly, Jinan, you have never let me down. On the contrary, you have always been my pride. You are your father's pride. For this affirmation, Ojinan had waited for more than 10 years. He blinked incredulously while he was still shocked. Ojibai pulled him into his arms and gently patted him, like a small baby. Gradually, the patting on the back grew faint, and finally it stopped. Ojinan cautiously turned to look at his father, but his father's eyes were already closed, his mouth pulled up in a serene smile. He departed from the world in great satisfaction. No, Dad, don't leave me. I'm afraid. The youth's heartbreaking cries resounded through the Star Pavilion. The despair and pain of losing a loved one was like a sharp ice pick stabbing into his chest, over and over, shredding his heart into pieces. Off stage, the audience restrained the pain and sadness in their hearts, where the lights illuminated tears reflected in their eyes, and some were already wailing uncontrollably. The LED screen gradually blackened, and Zhou Yunsheng stood up. He walked to the beam of light and slowly spoke into the microphone. That was an image of my father's last moments on earth. It's my most painful and untouchable memory. I was hesitant to take it out because I didn't want more people to see him so weak. In my heart, he will always be the most powerful, the most indestructible person. At this point, he choked again, then had to lower his head to adjust his breathing. A moment later, he continued, You can insult me, discredit me, but you can't discredit my father and disturb his peace in heaven. He closed his eyes. When he reopened them, all the sadness was replaced by anger. His tone was icy, words sharp like a knife. This song doesn't need drums, bass, electric guitars, electronic audio mixing. It only needs a pure piano accompaniment. This song isn't about grumbling and love sickness after a breakup. It's a requiem for my father. Lin Qing, when you rearranged this song, did you never think of how important this song was to me and my father? You betrayed my trust and tarnished my music. I will never forgive you. Never. The youth glared into the camera, the big screen displaying his ice skate blade like cold and fierce eyes. The audience was intimidated. They only woke up as if from a dream after he disappeared off stage. Then they looked at each other awkwardly. They had come here to get revenge for Lin Qiqing and Gi Shu. Prior to this, they'd firmly believed that only the talented Lin Qiqing could write such an excellent song, and only first-class vocalist Gi Shu could perfectly perform it. Compared to them, what was Ojinan? But after the brainwashing from the previous crazy 20 songs, they had been completely conquered. Those 20 songs, any one of them could become a great classic, with the potential to become a global hit. Ojibai called him his bride, and that was evidently true. Lin Qiqing absolutely couldn't be compared to Ojibai in terms of talent, yet Ojinan's talent had already surpassed his master's, far above Ojibai. Lin Qiqing had written so many songs after his debut. He had released so many albums, but even his best song couldn't be compared to any of these 20. Lin Qiqing was inferior to Ojinan. The gap between them was too far. Even the most hardcore fans had to admit this. The fans were silent, feeling extremely depressed. But among the audience were those who had only come to join in the fun, and each song had slowly converted them from haters to fans, and from fans to stans. Knowing that their idol had really been wrongly accused, they waved their sticks and shouted, Ojinan, you're the best! You're our pride! We'll always support you! Don't give up! Do your best! Don't be defeated! One more song! 2 hours isn't enough! You must persist! Gold will always shine! Words of encouragement resounded one after another throughout the Star Pavilion, making Lin Shiqing and Shu's fans feel even more embarrassed and angry. The embarrassment was because of the abuse and misunderstanding they had previously heaped onto Ojinan, and the anger was because of the idol's deception. Lin Shiqing debuted with the image of a musical genius and has always had the most pretentious personality among the four kings. His fans were mostly mature-minded professional men and women with their own judgment, ability, and decisiveness. At this point, they had red faces and actually felt a bit ashamed to be seen. The Star Pavilion began stirring in restlessness. The audience lingered in their seats for a long time, refusing to leave. Ojinan, sorry. Ojinan, we were wrong. Please forgive us for our ignorance. Ojinan, from now on you're my idol. I'll support you. People who defected from the fandom were everywhere, but the few senior fans who'd organized this revenge act didn't protest. An apology was due and necessary. Shu's fans were mostly young girls and boys. They were very emotional. A few kept muttering, saying that the video could be fake, but they were immediately surrounded by glares and didn't dare raise their heads. The security guards and police officers began evacuating the crowd. The concert opened with a bang, but was closed quite awkwardly. Sanchi Mu was standing in the shadows, staring intently at the youth under the spotlight. He was so bright, eye-catching, every single movement exuding unparalleled charm. He was the mellowest wine and the most potent drug. No one could resist his seduction, and no one could escape his captivity. San Chi Mu knew as long as he stood up on stage, he would definitely succeed. But when he really did succeed, he couldn't stand having everyone else's fervent gazes on him. He watched as the older man strolled towards him, his blood slowly beginning to boil. He wanted to pull him into his arms and wantonly kiss him, lock him in a room and have his way with him, pound into him with his hardest place, entangle in madness. His heart was already throbbing for him, bursting and breaking into pieces, but his legs were stubbornly stuck on the floor, unable to move. The always reticent him couldn't think of a way to express his love, so he exposed a confused expression. Julian Chang walked up to the man and asked, "What are you gawking at?" Sanchi Mu's Adam's apple bobbed, saying in a hoarse voice, "You did well tonight, better than I imagined. I'm proud of you." Julian Chang suddenly pushed himself closer. He spread out his arms and trapped Sanchi Mu into a corner, then slowly said, "I want to check something. I hope you can cooperate with me." Sanchi Mu gulped, waiting for his heart to stop beating frantically before asking, "What is it?" Leaning so close, he really wanted to kiss him. But before he could put his thoughts into action, the young man hooked his arms around his neck, pulled his head down, and captured his lips. a warm tongue stretched out and intertwined with his own, and an indescribable throbbing passed through the depths of his heart to his soul. Except for the fragrant flowers and bright fireworks in his mind, he could no longer think of anything else. Sanchimu's eyes deepened and darkened, his left hand holding the back of the young man's head, not allowing him to withdraw, and his right hand aggressively clamping his waist, pulling him against himself so they couldn't separate. The staff, who were initially approaching to congratulate, quickly scattered. They pretended that they saw nothing, but unanimously thought in their hearts, no wonder the boss was willing to invest so much in Ojinan. They have this kind of relationship. Climbing such a high branch, Ojinan's rise to fame was just a matter of time, especially since he has real talent. Chapter 7. When the kiss ended, Sanchimu asked hoarsely, what did you want to check? Juyin Sheng squinted and stretched out his tongue to lick at his pink lips. He laughed softly. I wanted to check whether or not you're the person I'm looking for. Sanchimu's palms were sweating nervously. He'd never kissed anyone before, so he had no skills. He'd sucked too hard, letting the young man expose a seemingly painful expression. Had he known earlier that the youth wanted to check something like this, he wouldn't have been so impatient. He would have been slow and gentle, making every effort to let him feel comfortable. He wiped his sweaty palms on his clothes, then expressionlessly asked, Can you let me kiss you again? I didn't do too well just now. Zhu Sheng laughed so hard tears came out. He never knew that his lover had such a shy and lovely side. Okay, let's give you another chance. He wrapped his hands around his lover's neck and exhaled a hot and sweet breath against his lips. Sanchimu's Adam's apple trembled fiercely, his body stiff like a stone. He cautiously touched the young man's cheek and slowly leaned in, tentatively licking his thin lips. Then he stretched out his tongue to pry open the other's teeth, gently probing in. His breathing quickened, sweating profusely, his long erect member pressed up against the other man's belly, gently rubbing. His body was clearly on the brink of madness, but his kiss was slow and cherishing, devoted like a pilgrimage. He explored the young man's mouth little by little, the tip of his tongue wrapped around the other's tongue, and gently fondled. Then he changed direction to gently sweep his palate and gums. He was anxious to swallow the other man into his stomach, but he strongly suppressed this crazy idea, forcefully squeezing his waist and imprisoning him in his arms, as if to stop him from running away. This strong yearning made Julian Chang tremble. He turned from a passive participant to active, in return for an even hotter and more lingering kiss. 10 minutes later, Sanchimu was finally satisfied. His head slightly backed up from the young man's lips, standing nose to nose, huskily asking, How was it? Are you sure now? Jun Cheng squinted and smiled. I'm sure. You're the one I'm looking for. Sanchimu's heart jumped wildly. A wave of joy almost exploded his chest. But his face was still expressionless. He simply nodded neatly and replied, That's good. Shall we head back to my house? After asking this, he glanced nervously at the youth's expression. No. Julian Sheng shook his head wickedly, but when he saw the man's clenched jaw and darkening eyes, he immediately added, I'm hungry. Let's go eat something first. Sanchimu's plummeting heart halted in mid-air. It was difficult to conceal the relief in his voice. Come to my house. I'll cook for you. What do you want to eat? I want to eat red braised pork, mambo tofu, kung pao chicken, Jun Sheng listed many dishes in one breath, then jokingly asked, "Can you make that?" "I can. You'll know when you eat." San Shimu couldn't help but be happy that he cultivated great cooking skills during his studies abroad. While the two people were sharing a sweet supper, the internet was already in an uproar. A post had appeared on Sea Country's largest forum, and after just a few minutes, it got tens of thousands of hits. Ojinan's concert recorded. Warning: high energy ahead. Please proceed with caution. This title was extremely provocative, enough to arouse everyone's desire to read on. The people of Sea Country all had serious cases of FOMO when they heard that Ojinan was hosting a free concert, and at that concert he would perform his new never released songs and a video proving his innocence. Those who wanted to attend were in the millions. But the Hunya Entertainment News Group only offered 50,000 spots. Among those 50,000 lucky people, you could easily count the numbers of Ojinan's real fans. Most of them were Lin Chiqing and Ge Mengshu's loyal fans. Before going, they left messages online saying that they would ruin Ojinan's concert as revenge for their idols. Many people expressed support for this. They also urged them to film and post the scene for the rest of the internet to share in the fun. Speaking of which, a video was published as soon as the concert ended. Ojinan must have had such a beating dog-like expression. Everyone clicked open the video while thinking such malevolent thoughts. Then they stared dumbfounded. The video contained none of the imagined violence, nor was there any humiliation and abuse. Everyone seemed to have taken drugs. They were writhing, screaming, and shouting with abandon because they were so excited. They were drenched in sweat and red-eyed, their bodies trembling uncontrollably. The person shooting the video was also on the edge of madness. The camera was constantly shaking, so the picture was very vague. But the concert was equipped with the best sound system in the world, so So Yun-cheng's captivating, incredibly penetrative voice was crystal clear, breaking through the screen and piercing through the eardrums of the listener with unstoppable momentum. This was a psychedelic rock song with a deafeningly intense rhythm. The sharp and loud electric guitar solo, plus Ojinan's panting, sexy voice was like a drug-filled needle. It stabbed into the arteries, making you addicted, making you lose the will to resist, so you involuntarily sank with him into the madness. Everyone was high, the screams of excitement resounded. The man who was shooting the video aimed it at himself and roared at the top of their lungs. "Who said Ozinan can't sing? What crap! He's been singing for more than an hour. Everything from rock to death metal, gothic metal, heavy metal. There's no song in the world he can't handle." After saying this, the young man on the stage suddenly kneeled and drew back the microphone to let out a high-pitched scream. The pitch got higher and higher and higher, and just when you thought that the wave would break open the sky, it suddenly turned into a muffled roar. The listeners' hearts were also dragged up to the summit by him, then dropped down to the bottom, making you feel dizzy, yet incredibly delighted. Forget about the people at the scene who had gone crazy. Even the netizens watching the video had goosebumps all over their bodies. This song was too emotional, too stimulating, making the blood boil. The camera shook violently again, and the picture blurred. Only the filmmaker was here shouting, Everyone listen to the song, feeling the high. I'm the only one with a phone out recording, like a fucking idiot. I'm done filming. The video ended, taking the madness with it. Netizens froze in front of the computer, rose in anger, pouring out messages. Handsome till death. My fucking pants are off, and that's what you show me? You should have recorded the whole song before getting high. Come back, I promise not to kill you. Star Alien. Begging for a complete video. That song was hot. Downright the best psychedelic rock. I'm drunk from across the screen. Can't imagine what it's like to be there. Post-nut clarity. I was at the scene. Ojinan's trouble almost broke the Star Pavilion. I heard that someone brought in a glass bottle and came out with it full of cracks from the sound wave. Those who weren't there to see it live will definitely regret it for a lifetime. That was one of the best. It was the best concert I've ever been to. I personally think that the international rock king, Adam Norman, can't compare to Ojinan. Small condom. I was at the concert too. Adam Norman really can't compare to Ojinan +1. Little lolly love creepy uncle +2. The concert ended an hour and a half ago, but I still can't calm down. I feel like I ate an aphrodisiac. When I was brushing my teeth, my head was still bobbing and my butt was still shaking. Rock rocks +1086. Just came back from Star Pavilion. My head is filled with Ojinan's voice. If he was standing in front of me right now, I would kneel down and lick the soles of his feet. I want to pinch my ears and look at him at 90 degrees, submitting to him. From today on, he is my male god. Those who attended the concert left comments online, one after another. They all gave Ujinan's performance high ratings, causing the people who weren't there to feel an itchy curiosity in their hearts. At the same time, Lin Jiqing and Gaming Shu's blogs suffered wave after wave of malicious abuse, crashing the site. Attentive people noticed that the critics included senior members of Lin Jiqing and Gaming Shu's fan groups. They had rallied everyone to ruin Ojinan's concert, but they turned against each other after just 2 hours. What really happened at the concert? The ignorant people finally got the truthful post they wanted. The title of the post was very simple, only 5 words. The genuine Because of You. They all knew that Gaming Shu's interpretation of Because of You had sincere, mournful feelings. It was known as the most tear-jerking love song of the year. Many youngsters liked to sing it after a breakup, looking like fools as they cried and sang. Music critics predicted for the next 2 decades no love song would surpass Because of You in popularity, and no one's interpretation would ever have deeper feelings than Gaming Shu's. The combination of the two would create a classic among classic love songs. Many people covered the song, but in the eyes of the world, Gaming Shu's version was the well-deserved genuine. What does this title mean? Is it positive or negative for Gaming Shu? With such curiosity, the netizens clicked open the video and watched attentively. There was no bass, no electronic keyboard, no drums, no electronic guitar. The gorgeous background music was abandoned, replaced by only a piano and a clear voice. A grief that had nowhere to be vented was the most vivid, tear-jerking interpretation of Because of You. The lyrics had also changed, becoming the belated confession of a child who had lost their father. When you were alive, your love made me feel oppressed and immobile. Because of you, I was afraid. I couldn't trust in myself or others. When you died, I realized that
one I should surpass was not you, but myself. Your love was not a shackle, but the wings that carried me. I didn't fear your heavy fatherly love. I feared losing you. This was a father's requiem. It was full of a child's worship and love for their father. But giving shoes because of you was about a woman mourning her lost love. In terms of feelings of sincerity, the two couldn't be compared. In terms of the song's profound meaning, the two couldn't be compared. In terms of singing ability, it was simply heaven and earth. Giming Shu's treasured dolphin voice range was destroyed by Ojinan's ultra-high pitch that spanned five octaves. In the video, the youth repeatedly stopped playing while choking on his sobs. So when the camera panned on the big LED screen and Ojibai emerged, everyone was shocked. Before his death, Ojinan had already finished writing the song. So what was going on with the manuscript in Li Shiqing's manuscript Li Shiqing submitted to the court? He said that he was inspired to compose the song after his mentor's death. That was simply a slap to the face. At this point, the innocent party and guilty party could be distinguished at a glance. Chapter 8. Before entering the concert, security had rigorously searched the audience to ensure that they didn't bring in any video recording equipment besides mobile phones. So no one had taken a clear and complete video of Ojinan's concert. But the blurry clips a few netizens had released online were already enough to draw attention and enthusiasm from the masses. Good songs never lacked for listeners. Never mind the heirloom masterpieces that were immensely popular in countless small worlds that Zhou Yunsheng had deliberately selected. These videos quickly spread through the internet, and people constantly bombarded Huanya Entertainment News' official website with messages akin to asking to buy the complete genuine HD concert disc. In just 3 days, the number of pre-orders had already reached the hundreds of thousands. This late sale of the concert disc was Huanya Entertainment News' plan. Otherwise, they wouldn't have invested so much funds in vain. While releasing the disc, they also planned to release a Chinese and English version of Because of You as an EP, then have it chart on famous domestic and international charts. They had no doubt that the song would create a miracle. Of course, the other 20 songs were just as good and would surely set off a tornado called Ojinan in the domestic and international music scene. While Hanya Entertainment News was actively preparing for late publicity, Times Records was caught up in an unprecedented crisis. Zhou Yunsheng submitted the video to the court as evidence, and under the exhaustive pursuit of reporters, the court had no choice but to announce that the video was indeed real and reliable. This news attracted the attention of all parties, and the influx of abuse on Lin Shixing's blog increased day by day, quickly overwhelming the webpage. A large majority of his fans unfollowed him, leaving messages of how they had misjudged him, were very, very disappointed in him, and would never love him again. When Lin Shiqing had sued Ojinan for plagiarism, Times Record had immediately come forward and announced that they would block Ojinan. Times Record will not tolerate dishonest artists. This sentence was posted on the official website until today. At that time, many people praised this sentence, but now it had become a big joke. The one who should be punished got off scot-free, while the innocent victim was cut off from their livelihood. Times Records' actions are simply mind-boggling. The day after the concert, Times Records stocks plummeted, billions instantly evaporated. If this crisis was not dealt with perfectly, it would be kicked out of the ranks of entertainment giants. Yoon Ji Wan's long retired father personally went to the company, pointed at him, and cursed him out for a few hours. Lin Shiqing and Kim Meng-shu were hidden in their homes, not daring to see anyone. Now what? I told you to make a big deal out of it, but you didn't listen. I told you not to make a big deal out of it, but you didn't listen. How can we cancel it at this stage? The evidence has already been submitted and filed. There is no way to retract my statement now. I'm screwed, completely screwed. Are you satisfied? Are you happy? Lin Shiqing had long lost his usual elegance and calm. He pointed at his manager's nose and loudly questioned. The manager was silent, his downcast eyes full of despair. Back then, Oji Bai's one comment, "You're no good," immediately destroyed his road to fame. He struggled to get ahead for several years, but in the end, he could only change professions to become a manager. Oji Bai destroyed his dream, so he hated him, but he couldn't fight against him. Thus, this hatred had passed on to Oji Nan. He wanted to destroy Oji Nan like Oji Bai had destroyed him, but he couldn't have predicted that things would end up like this. The manuscript submitted to the court backfired and became proof of Lin Shiqing's lies, and everyone in Sea Country was watching Lin Shiqing's humiliation. There was no way out. They could no longer save themselves. They could only wait for the court and public trial. It's fair to assume that Lin Shiqing's journey to become the king of the music industry would end here, and all of his brilliant achievements would be reduced to rubble. In the future, whenever someone mentions him, they would only use shameless plagiarist or ungrateful villain to refer to his name. That kind of future was terrible. The manager covered his face, not daring to contemplate it any further. Lin Shiqing was a superstar. His mentality was a little stronger than his manager's. Barely suppressing his panic and anger, he called Yoon Shi-yuan. Now only the company could save him. While Lin Shiqing was on the verge of collapse, Ge Meng-shu wasn't much better off. Although she was not the one who plagiarized, when the EP was being promoted, the company's tagline was Lin Shiqing tailor-made love song for Ge Meng-shu. This gimmick had netted her many fans, but now it stuck to her like a fishy smell, impossible to wash off. It wasn't a love song, it was a requiem. The year's most tear-joking love song, most heartful singing performance, and other such beautiful praises now seemed like a downright joke. It became a desecration of the dead, the most shameful scam of the century. Thinking of this, Ge Meng-shu looked like she had been grabbed by the hair and mercilessly slapped dozens of times. Her cheeks were hot and painful. In the past, she received glory for this song, and now she had to pay a bitter price for it. She turned on the computer with shaky hands and phoned her supportive post for Lin Shiqing. I believe in Senior Brother's talent and character. I beg you guys to restrain yourself. Don't discredit his father's name. This sentence was once praised by countless people, and now it was once again on the trending page. The netizens were ridiculing Ge Meng-shu, saying, "Whoever breastfeeds is the mother, helping Tyrant Joe in his oppression, hugging any thigh to climb higher, no sense of right and wrong. Someone even said that her because of you was a lump of shit compared to Oji Nan's version, emitting a nauseating stench. Get out of the music business. You and Lin Shiqing don't deserve to make music. Oji Nan-sama is right. You guys are not worth forgiving." Is it fun to stomp on the dead to rise to the top? What upcoming music diva? Bullshit. Please apologize to Oji-nan-sama and the deceased Mr. Oji-bai. Otherwise, I will hack your computer within 24 hours and expose all your shameful secrets to the public. Threatening messages after threatening message made Gu Mengshu feel very frightened. She turned off her computer and pulled at her hair. Anger, regret, horror, and other such negative emotions almost drove her crazy. She'd struggled to get where she was today, paying a price that many ordinary people couldn't imagine. But just as she was about to reach the glorious summit, she suddenly found the building supporting her crumbling overnight. Whether or not she could safely pass through this crisis was the least of her problems. The only choice she had the now was the one that preserved what little reputation she had left. I must distance myself. I must tell the world that I was also deceived. With such thoughts in mind, Gaming Shu picked up the phone to make a call. Yun Ji Yuan had forced out the truth from Lin Qing. That song had indeed been plagiarized from Oji Nan. Even if he hadn't admitted it, Oji Nan's video was proof enough. As long as their brain was normal, no fan would still believe in Lin Qing. He had fallen from the altar of the music gods. The followers on his blog had dropped from over 70 million to a few hundred. If he'd plagiarized another song, perhaps there would be some hope for a comeback after the storm passed. But he unfortunately plagiarized the requiem Oji Nan had written for Oji Bai. Oji Bai had treated him no different than his own son. After his death, he left him a substantial inheritance. Everyone in Sea Country knew about it. He'd betrayed his benefactor and trampled over the dead. The vile behavior was simply unforgivable. Thinking about Lin Qing's plea for help, Yan Ji Yuan felt a massive headache, but the other man was Time Record's cash cow. He had to try to save him. Soon afterwards, his closest lover also called, and Yun Ji Yuan's wavering heart finally found a direction. If saving them both was possible, then that would be great, but if not, he could only abandon Lin Qing and do his best to save Ge Mengshu. Hanya Entertainment News swiftly launched the EP and HD concert album, slaughtering all the most well-known music charts at home and abroad. The top 10 songs on the Billboard chart, BBC Bulletin Board, eCountry's UK chart, eCountry's Oricon chart, and other charts all came from Oji Nan's concert album. Even the international music diva Meta Jones expressed interest in covering the English version of Because of You. She even frankly admitted to the media that she cried every time she listened to the song. No matter where you went, as long as there was a stereo, it would be playing one of Oji Nan's songs. All who heard them couldn't help humming along, shaken by his voice over and over again. Oji Nan was popular. He became a global sensation at an unimaginable speed. His musical talent made even the Hall of Fame musicians express their admiration. In less than half a month, the album and EP sold more than 10 million copies worldwide, netting Hwanya Entertainment News hundreds of millions in profits, and the continuously rising popularity was a sign that the album would become an immortal classic, priceless in value. When the sales statistic came out, the netizen expressed, "Originally, everyone thought that San Chi-mu had lost his mind, giving Oji Nan over 10 million to burn away for fun. But it turns out that the ones who were brain damaged was us. When everyone was blinded by Lin Chiqing, he was the only one who saw the value in Ojinan. He is indeed the god of investment. Only he has the courage to help a ruined person host a concert. He contributed to Ojinan's success and future. Ojinan will contribute to Hanya Entertainment News' success. Ojinan did indeed contribute to Hanya Entertainment's news success. When Time Records' stock price fell, Hanya CEO seized the opportunity to buy a large number of shares and quietly settling into Time Records' board of directors. Soon the status quo of the original duopoly would completely change, becoming a monopoly. Now Hunya Entertainment News was anxious to serve Uji Nan like an ancestor. They not only gave him 3 personal assistants and a gold-level manager, they also brought out the best and most comprehensive resources for him to pick from. At the moment, Ryu Sheng was sitting on a sofa, leafing through several contracts. There is a car endorsement, watch endorsement, and clothing endorsement. What should I pick? He closed the folder and tilted his head to look at the man working solemnly behind the desk. You can pick whichever you want. Although the man didn't look up, his tone was gentle and pampering. Then I don't want any. I only like singing and writing songs. I don't want to bother with anything else. Zhu Sheng had inherited all of Uji Nan's tone deafness. Then focus on singing. I'll make Lily reject all the contracts. San Shimu put down his documents and walked to the sofa. He bent over and pulled the young man into his arms, his tone extremely indulgent. Yun Zheng gently chuckled, then puckered his lips and kissed the other man's firm chin. San Shimu's eyes darkened. He was preparing to devour his lover when he heard his assistant's voice at the door. Chief Yun of Times Record wants to meet you. San Shimu raised his eyebrows and was about to send the man away when he saw his lover slightly shake his head. He had no choice but to let the other man in. Chapter 9. The day after the concert, Lin Chiqing and Ge Shu held press conference to make a statement on the matter. But this matter involved the dead godfather of music, and with San Shimu's encouragement, the reporters treated the two very roughly. They raised one sharp question after another, rendering the two speechless. Lin Chiqing stood up and bowed an apology several times, but he was unable to say a word in his defense. How could he justify it? The so-called manuscript he'd submitted to the court and published on the blog had already thoroughly proved that he was a liar, an ungrateful villain. I'm deeply aware of my own mistake. Please forgive me. Please give me another chance. He sobbed out this sentence. The once most image-conscious god-tier singer was now in a mess of snot and tears, crying like a child. No forgiveness! We'll never forgive you! An Ojinan fan hidden in the crowd shouted loudly. Then somebody rushed up and threw a prepared bag of dog shit at him. Security quickly carried the man out, leaving the thoroughly embarrassed Lin Chiqing exposed to the cameras. He finally realized that his reputation was now like his suit, putrid. No matter how many times he washed it, when he tried to wear it again later, it would always look dirty in his mind. He was so regretful that he almost broke down on the spot, but he endured. He needed to save Ge Shu. Ge Shu never knew the truth, so she was innocent. He couldn't ruin her future. His manager tried to pull him off stage, but he refused to leave. He spent a few minutes explaining Ge Shu's side. Afterwards, Ge Shu also held a press conference, stating that she had no knowledge about this, but she still wanted to prudently apologize to Oji Nan and Oji Bai. Apparently, the fans didn't buy it. Her previously rising fan base plummeted, leaving only a few thousand people. Even the recently debuted newcomer had more fans. Seeing that Gameng Shu's future was about to be ruined, Yun Xiyuan became anxious, and now he'd come to find San Mu. The two of them walked into the office together and settled themselves on the couch. Gameng Shu had on heavy makeup, but it couldn't conceal her gaunt face. She greeted San Mu, then quickly glanced at Oji Nan, who was reclining on the sofa. The youth was drinking tea, his porcelain white skin slightly fluorescent under the sunlight, his lowered eyes revealing a quiet and melancholic temperament, beautiful like a painting. It was hard to imagine that someone so introverted and shy in reality had such an intimidating stage presence. He could make tens of thousands of people cheer with him, screaming, crying, then get carried away. He'd smashed all the negative rumors about him, and also those who claimed that he couldn't write songs had nothing to say after listening to his concert. As he'd explained on his blog, it's not that he couldn't write, it's just that his admiration for his father was so strong that he'd imprisoned himself. He thought that he could never break free, but his father's death cracked open the shackles on his mind, allowing him to bravely fly towards the sky. Yun Ji-yuan also felt very tangled when he saw Oji Nan. The young man he'd once thought was impossible to train had transformed into the world's most popular musician overnight. His songs occupied the top spots of all the big and small music charts, and each land had a growing number of fanatical fans. He was called a rock leader, music king, and he'll be able to create even more glorious achievements than his father. Ojiba, and such a genius, was unhesitatingly abandoned by Time's record, forcing him to turn to a competitor. Because of this, Yun Xiyuan was now not only scolded by his father, his decision was also repeatedly used by board members as a weapon for criticism, demanding that he step down. Back then, Ojinan went to the chairman's office several times, wanting to explain what happened, but he was always driven away by Yun Ji-yuan. Now that he thought about it, if he had calmly listened, perhaps Time Records wouldn't have fallen into this predicament. Rubbing his heart aching in regret, Yang Ji-yuan greeted San Mu. "Have a seat." San Mu casually waved, then took out a cigar and handed it to his lover. Zhuan Sheng took it, neatly cut and lit it, then quickly shifted his head to avoid the rising smoke. Seeing this, San Mu placed the cigar in the ashtray and said in a low voice, "If you hate the smell of tobacco, why don't I quit smoking?" "No need. This is a preloaded characteristic. It's impossible for you to quit." Zhuan Sheng shook his head in amusement. He'd tried to help his lover quit smoking in the past. Not for 1 month or 2 months, but in each of the 3 or 4 reincarnations, he was never successful. Over time, he also gave up. He wrapped his arms around his lover's neck and pulled his head down. Zhu Sheng leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Don't quit. I like the taste of tobacco when you kiss me." San Mu's face was expressionless, but his lower body was quickly swelling and hardening. He endured and endured, but he finally couldn't hold back. He cupped his lover's cheek and devoutly kissed his forehead. Then he folded his slender legs to block the awkward region before looking at Yun Ji-yuan and asking, "What did Chief Yuan come to see me for this time?" The Sanchimu rumored to be cold and ruthless, and the person overflowing with happiness in the front of him was nothing alike. Yun Ji Yuan was stunned for a moment before saying, Chief Son, I hope Mr. O can cooperate with us to help Meng Shu explain her position. She really didn't know about the plagiarism incident, but she's being lumped in with Lin Chiqing. Her future is bright. It's a pity to have it be destroyed like this. He knew that there weren't enough benefits to impress San Shimu, so he quickly added, I heard that Chief's son wanted to buy the land in the western section of Riverside. That's the Yan family's ancestral property. I can officiate and transfer it to Chief's son at the lowest price. As long as Mr. O expresses his willingness to forgive Meng Shu on his block and give Meng Shu a chance to start over. For his lover's future, he was willing to pay any price. Ge Meng Shu was obviously very moved. Her eyes were bright red as she tightly held his hand. San Shimu turned his head to look at his lover. He really did want that land, but if it was contrary to his lover's wishes, then even if you gave him all the wealth in the world, he wouldn't do it. Zhou Yunsheng lowered his eyes and pondered for a moment. Then he slowly shook his head. It's just one sentence. It seems very easy, but sorry, I can't do this. In the end, Miss Ge isn't innocent. The song was great, right? Did you desperately want it as soon as you heard it? And the person who wrote the song happened to be her admirer. He'd do anything for her. So Miss Ge was tempted. She begged him over and over again to give her the song. I asked Senior Brother back then. He had already started preparing the EP for me, but then he suddenly started avoiding me and gave the song to you. In my opinion, he was pestered by you to the point where he had no choice. If it wasn't for your greed and harassment, then none of this would have happened. No matter how you cleanse yourself and purify yourself, it's impossible to change the fact that you're the catalyst of this disaster. I can never forgive Senior Brother, so naturally I can never forgive you either. Please leave. The young man's words ripped off Ge Mingshu's last fig leaf. Indeed, back then, Lin Qiqing had explained to her. He'd said that the song was for Ojinan, and the EP was already being worked on. But she knew that the song would be popular. It would create a miracle, so she went to great lengths to get it, including pressuring Lin Qiqing's manager, meeting Lin Qiqing in private to give him some hope, and so on and so on. Then she got her wish. No matter how much she declared her innocence in front of the media, she couldn't kill the fear and guilt in her heart. She originally thought that Ojinan, who was weak-willed and kind by nature, would promise to forgive her, but she didn't expect that after experiencing this series of setbacks, he would become tough and cold like this. She regretted it terribly, but found no room for redemption. If she couldn't get Ojinan's forgiveness, it would be difficult for her to move forward in the entertainment industry. What should she do in the future? Take Yun Ji Yuan's offer to quit the industry and marry him? Forget about her own reluctance. His father would be the first to stand up and express his disapproval. The Yun family wouldn't let an entertainer into their family. Ge Mingshu felt like she had fallen into an ice hole. She didn't even know how Yun Ji Yuan dragged her out of the office. Yun Ji Yuan could also be regarded as a powerful figure in the entertainment industry, but this time he couldn't even protect his girlfriend. Seeing that Ge Mingshu's singing career had completely fallen into the abyss, Lin Qiqing was moving far abroad to never return. His heart was holding onto a flame, and he needed to find place to vent it. And Ojinan became the primary object for his desire for revenge. He spent a lot of money to buy some photos and made people spread them online overnight. These photos were of two men kissing obliviously. Ojinan's face was very clear, but the other man was hidden in the dark, indistinguishable. The man was very tall, and his body was also very sturdy, confining Ojinan in his arms with a tight embrace. He, a hand pressing the back of his head, a hand tightly wrapping around his waist, their lower bodies connected. Even in the dim light, the two's emotional attachment couldn't be concealed. The title was also very provocative. The new music king is gay, making out disgustingly in public places. Then the Internet Navy responded to the post, one after another, saying that they'd witnessed Orjinan flirt with different men in public, even acting as a callboy. His private life was definitely rotten. The netizens were in an uproar once the news came out. Shocked and angry, they bombarded Ojinan's blog, asking for the truth. They also called Huanya Entertainment News headquarters to request an explanation. Many homophobes said that the photos were disgusting. When they saw it, they lost their lunch. Of course, some people came forward in support, saying that loving man or loving woman was Ojinan's freedom. But Sea Country had an overall conservative culture, so these voices were still a minority. A certain old-school styled actor lambasted the matter. He called it a disease, demanding that Ojinan quickly seek treatment. Ojinan's fledgling singing career was dealt a devastating blow. His sexuality and private life became the subject of after-dinner conversations, and some intimate photos of him and Lin Chiqing taken when he was younger surfaced, suggesting that he was in unrequited love with Lin Chiqing, so he deliberately ruined him. Since everyone had stopped paying attention to Gaming Shu, Yun Xiyuan cleaned up her reputation by discrediting Wu Jinan. He contracted the top domestic musicians, planning to release a new album for her, so she could come back into the limelight as quickly as possible. Lili, Huanya's CEO, approached Son Chimu with a stack of newspapers, asking anxiously, "Boss, what do we do now? Should we hold a press conference to explain the situation, or should we quickly fake a sex scandal with Ozinan and one of our company's female artists so he could be washed white?" After asking the last question, Lili would swear on his life that he saw killing intent in his boss's eyes. Chapter 10. What does Jinan plan to do? San Shimu lit a cigar and slowly leaned back into his chair. What do you think I should do? The door was pushed open and an impeccably handsome young man walked in, followed by his manager. He sat down on the double sofa and continued. Which newspaper would dare publish such an article without your consent, San Shimu? The manager dripped cold sweat. What was the intent behind the boss's actions? Was he bored of playing with Ojinan, so he wanted to ruin him? Such a sick rich man. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at Ojinan with sympathy. San Shimu was indeed guilty as charged, but he had to do it. Otherwise, there'd always be a sense of fear and uncertainty in his heart. He wanted to tell everyone in the world, Ojinan is mine, you can't covet him. He couldn't stand seeing everyone's fanatical gaze, couldn't stand having people clamor after him wherever he went. Couldn't stand the online mob crying and screaming to have his babies. Every moment of the day he lived in panic and torment. He only felt a moment of peace when they were deeply entangled. He never wanted to pull out from him. He just wanted to be one with him forever. This way, he couldn't suddenly disappear. He couldn't go somewhere he couldn't follow. But these crazy thoughts, San Shimu couldn't share them with Ojinan. So when he received a call from the newspaper, for a reason he couldn't explain, he let it go. Now he was restlessly awaiting his lover's decision. You can handle it any way you want. He walked over to the sofa and stopped to put his arm around his lover's shoulders. Zhu Sheng expressionlessly looked up at him, waiting for his forehead to be covered in guilty cold sweat before slowly opening. I want to hold a press conference to come out of the closet. Prepare it. Out of the closet? With who? San Shimu's voice was hoarse. Yours. You're asking with who? Are you brave enough to announce our relationship? If not, I'll come out by myself, then go abroad to spread my wings. I don't want a market in sea country. Ojinan gave a contemptuous smile. Li Li and the manager looked at their boss, dripping with cold sweat. This proposal was too fucking bold. Their hearts were about to explode. The boss would never agree. A performing artist coming out of the closet was nothing. A financial giant coming out of the closet would shake up the stock of all the companies under the Sun Clan, implicating billions of dollars. While the two looked on in disbelief, San Mu unexpectedly smiled. His smile was relaxed and delighted. He took out a black velvet box from his suit pocket and handed it to the young man. Zhu Sheng also didn't make a fuss. He opened the lid and put the pair of rings on their ring fingers. Do you want me to kneel and propose? San Mu pulled his tie and earnestly asked. If you're willing. Zhu Sheng looked at him and smiled. San Mu immediately knelt down, taking hold of his lover's left hand. He kissed the back of it, pious and gentle. The love overflowing from his eyes was suffocating. Li Li and the manager couldn't stand it and hurriedly fled. That afternoon, at a five-star hotel owned by the Sun Clan, Ojinan held a press conference. He and San Mu sat down side by side, wearing the same style of silver gray suit, hair meticulously groomed. They looked radiant. No one dared to pull San Mu's whiskers, so the reporter's questions were very restrained. When someone asked about the authenticity of the photo, Zhu Sheng nodded at the microphone. The photo was real. I like men. Some people cursed in front of the TV screen. Some cried. Others felt depressed, but no one could stop him from continuing his speech. Moreover, my lover is sitting right next to me. He openly placed their clasped hands on top of the table, smiling a satisfied and tender smile. When I was most helpless, when I was depressed and desperate, when I was abandoned by everyone I loved, only he stood by my side and gave me selfless help. In this world, I can't trust anyone except him. I can't love anyone else but him. There were no unspoken rules, no exchanges of interest or coercion between us. We are truly in love. In front of the TVs, the audience venting their dissatisfaction suddenly quieted. They remembered the desperate situation Ojinan had been in before. If not for San Mu, wouldn't he have been ruined beyond repair? When he thought about it, he really had no reason to not love San Mu. San Mu's heart trembled. It jumped wildly, his chest almost exploding in great joy, but his face only carried a faint smile. He embraced the youth and printed a kiss on his forehead. Then he spoke slowly, enunciating each word. Yes, we're truly in love, and we're planning to get married. We don't need anyone's approval or blessing. This is the end of today's press conference. Goodbye. He pulled the young man up and strode away, leaving behind him the blinding flashes of cameras. The scenes of the tall man kissing the slim youth in his arms and kissing him The scene of the tall man taking the slim youth into his arms and kissing him was so beautiful and warm that people couldn't bear to disturb it. Online, the tidal wave of opposition suddenly died down. No one had anything else to add. But a relatively conservative environment in Sea Country made Yun Sheng feel very uncomfortable, so he decided to go to A Country to expand. The acceptance of homosexuality in their entertainment industry was quite high, so it wouldn't become an obstacle to his career. The fans in Sea Country complained again and again when they heard the news, saying that all those homophobes were to blame for this. Loving a man or a woman was a person's freedom. Why did they want to interfere in other people's lives? Why criticize them? If not for those irrational attacks, the idol would have never fled to a faraway land discouraged. Soon, news broke out that Gi Mengshu's team were responsible for posting the photo online. The purpose was to clear her reputation by discrediting Oji Nan. The news brought disaster for Gi Mengshu. Her barely recovering singing career suffered an unprecedented blow. The sales for the new album was only in the hundreds, a small performance, and the netizens gave her a new nickname, Scheming Bitch. It was also revealed that she was really the one who played the unspoken rules. She maintained very improper relationships with both Yun Shi-yuan and Lin Shi-qing, which was why she could quickly climb to stardom. Then intimate photos of her and the two men were attached to the post. The photos were quite R-rated. There was French kissing, photos in bed, and one particularly eye-catching photo was of her and Lin Shiqing making love in a bathtub. Faced with Yun Shiyuan's interrogation, Jie Mengshu practically went mad. She quickly called Lin Shiqing in E Country to make him clarify the situation. Lin Shiqing's life was now very miserable. Perhaps because of his poor psychological state, he not only didn't clarify, he even admitted it, causing Yun Shiyuan to be extremely furious. Even when the technicians later identified the photo as falsified, Yan Shiyuan refused to trust Gi Mengshu again, concluding that she was a two-timing tramp. He ended his relationship with Gi Mengshu, cancelled her resources, and quickly got engaged to a young lady with a similar familial status. Without the male lead and the second male lead's devoted support, and with her thoroughly tarnished reputation, Gi Mengshu could no longer reach the heights she could have reached in the original plot. She became a struggling D-list celebrity, and in order to support herself, she took roles in many vulgar variety shows, completely sinking into obscurity. In June of the same year, the World Cup was held in B Country, and Oji Nan was invited to be the guest of honor performing the grand finale. In the non-stop spray of fireworks, the youth painted in seductive smoky makeup slowly rose to the center of the stage. He was wearing a skin-tight jacket and black leather pants, showcasing his thin but explosive body. His hair was completely slicked back, revealing facial contours that appeared incomparably deep, even in the West, and pink lips completely painted white, looking like a block of ice-cold metal. He was so handsome, like lightning, like a flame, but his voice was like the sound of thunder, formidable. He waved, and thousands of people waved with him. He danced, and thousands of people danced with him. He shouted, and tens of thousands of people returned his cry. He raised his hands to the beat, and the whole venue erupted in deafening applause. Satisfied, he moved his finger to his lips, motioning for everyone to quiet down. Immediately, a pin drop could be heard in the stadium. He was the master of them all. No one could resist his singing charm. The camera followed him, projected his unmatched beauty on the huge screen. Some people wept, some screamed, some were unable to bear it, fainting, then carried out by the well-trained staff to the ambulance waiting outside the venue. Because of Ojinan's contribution, the opening ceremony of this World Cup became the most intense and sensational event of all times. His fans were spread across the continents, with different skin colors and speaking different languages. The cameras that were not pointing at the stage panned over the crowd, focusing on random audience members. Whoever was chosen shouted, Ojinan, I love you, to the camera. Even B Country's president, sitting in the VIP lounge, couldn't help but stand up, sambaying to the beat, then blowing a kiss towards the man on the stage. After leaving Sea Country, Ojinan didn't sink into obscurity like some music critics had predicted. He not only stood firm, he became a well-deserved international superstar. Those who were once held up as legendary musicians by his father now fawned over him wherever they went, hoping that he could one day write them a song or two when he was in a good mood. Lin Chiqing lived in E Country for more than half a year. His cash had already run out, so he could only move out from his luxurious apartment to a small single room. Due to his damaged reputation, all the advertisers cancelled their contracts, and he was asked to pay them a huge amount of compensation. He sold his luxury car and mansion to finally put enough money together. Now he was sitting in front of the TV, staring blankly at the brilliant shining young man on the screen. He watched him skillfully manipulate the audience's mood, watched him hit high notes with abandon, watched him drive everyone to madness, watched him step off the stage and embrace San Chimu, who walked over to welcome him and give him a passionate kiss. The 2,000 people in the stadium simultaneously sent their blessing, making the young man widen his eyes and laugh. Lin Chiqing laughed along with him, then he covered his face and wept bitterly.